Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of this committee for having invited my colleague and I to present our members' point of view on Bill C-391 and to answer any questions that you may have in this regard. My name is Diana Cabrera, former Canadian national shooting team member and currently on the Uruguayan national shooting team. I'm also a recipient for the 2009 Athlete of the Year Award for Uruguay. I would like to say that Canadian Shooting Sports Association fully supports the purpose changes in this bill. And at this point, I would like to focus on the effect of the long gun registration on sports competitors and users. There's no question that the long gun registry has deterred individuals from entering the shooting sports. The inclusion of specialized air, target, and muzzle-loading firearms in the registry seems predetermined to achieve those goals. These firearms are virtually never used in crime by the nature of their physical makeup and cost, yet they're treated to the same legislative seal as more common firearms. In Canada, unlike Britain and the United States, exemptions have been made in law for these types of firearms, as many are not even considered to be firearms. This situation often leads to an adult or coach having to acquire a junior's competition firearm, being responsible for its possession and for the regulatory care of these firearms while in use. The main issue for competitive participants is the fear of imminent criminality. We may easily find ourselves afoul of uninformed law enforcement or CSSA officers. Any paperwork error may lead to temporary detention, missed flights, missed matches, and confiscation of our property. There's a primal cringe every time I am asked for my papers, knowing what could be next and fearing what will happen as officers apply personal interpretations to our confusing laws. Law enforcement and media coverage of firearm issues have made the situation worse. We are treated to spectacular press coverage of very ordinary firearms described as an arsenal and taking guns off the street, when in fact these belong to ordinary firearm owners who had simply failed to renew some paperwork. How do you think these things make legal firearms owners feel? Am I next? Did I somehow forget some nuance of my paperwork that will bring police to my door? Will my face wind up on the 6 o'clock news, vilifying me to my friends, my family, co-workers? Will I be targeted at a traffic checkpoint by a CPIC verification? Firearm owners live with these fears every single day. All this to justify a failed system that never prevented a crime. I thank you, and I will now pass this presentation to my colleague, Tony Bernardo.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Standing Committee. I would like to focus on the current and future costs of the long gun registry. First, it's important to establish a few basic facts. In 1998, the Canada Firearms Centre polling figures showed there were 3.3 million firearms owners in Canada. When program results indicated poor compliance with the new laws, the CFC manufactured their consent for the new legislation with their Fall 2000 survey. They indicated gun ownership in Canada had declined since 1998 to only 2.3 million gun owners. Over 1 million Canadians became instant criminals January 1st, 2001. This was done by asking the poll question, does anyone in your household own a functioning firearm? The nuance not being understood. To accept this reduced number, one must also accept, without any evidence at all, that 1 million firearms owners and 2.87 million firearms vanished in 2 years. This would surely have been noticed either by used firearm sales or by police turn-ins, and coincidentally, that is a sufficient volume of firearms to bury every police station in Canada to a depth of 32 feet. In 1976, Liberal Justice Minister Ron Bassford tabled a 19-page document in Parliament showing 11.2 million firearms in Canada based on import, export, manufacturing, and RCMP data. Using the same methodology, we can make a reasonable estimate of the number of firearms presently in the country while allowing for lost, destroyed, and misreported firearms. This calculation results in a net figure of about 13.8 million firearms in Canada in the hands of some 3.4 million persons. Why is this important? Because the Canada Firearms Program currently reports a total of 7,493,033 firearms registered in the hands of 1,835,319 owners, or approximately half of that estimate. The above numbers of 13.8 million firearms possessed by some 3.4 million are now close to the 3.3 million firearms owners reported in the Canada Firearms Centre's initial 1998 study, each now known to possess 4 firearms each, for some 13.2 million firearms. The long gun registry is by no means complete. It's been stated often that the registry is virtually useless unless all or most of the firearms in it are properly registered. But there's a major discrepancy here between what is and what should be. It seems numerous Canadians have withdrawn their consent to be governed through a mistrust of the motives of government and authority. The firearms registry has exceeded the $2 billion mark, and now supporters of the registry vow it will cost a mere $4.1 million per year to maintain it and track down and bring the other 6 million firearms and their owners into the system. If the total cost is not accounted for, what are we maintaining? A registry of half the guns in Canada, many improperly registered, so a police officer can be assured of maybe a 50-50 chance that the registry is right. For the registry to achieve its creators' goals, the remaining 6 million firearms and their owners must be brought into the system. But is that possible? When the registry was created, we warned of unintended consequences. Many experts warned how enforcement of repressive legislation would lead to a breakdown of trust between government, law enforcement, and the firearms community. And now in economic hard times, untold millions of dollars are being contemplated being spent on an error-ridden registry on registering an unknown number of firearms into the hands of an unknown number of Canadians. 2 weeks ago, Canadian Shooting Sports Association conducted an anonymous survey of 2018 random legal gun owners from across Canada, with the results only being published in this presentation and not before. The survey is accurate to 2.2%, 19 times out of 20. The survey dealt with the respondents' opinions of the relationship between law enforcement and firearms owners and asked the following questions and recorded the following answers. Number 1, as a legal firearms owner, who are you more afraid of, police or criminals? The answer, police, 63.93%. Since the implementation of the Firearms Act, do you still trust Canada's police? The answer, no, 74.28%. Do you believe police associations represent their members' views regarding firearms issues? No, 94.49%. Do you believe police associations are misrepresenting the facts regarding Canada's long gun registry? Yes, 96.73%. Do you believe police associations should be involved in the creation of law? No, 87.87%. Do you believe police target firearms owners? Yes, 83.26%. Do you personally know someone unjustly charged with a firearms offense? Yes, 46.29%. These numbers are shocking. How did people, the most supportive people of the law enforcement community, return these results? How did this serious unintended consequence come about? Well, after hearing Chief Blair's yesterday, his preference for the registry over additional personnel, the survey results may take on more meaning. The specter of confiscation has never disappeared, and truthfully, why should it? When the Canada Firearms Act was enacted, 585,000 registered firearms were instantly put on the prohibited list. Recently, the RCMP moved 2 types of registered firearms to the prohibited list with no explanations to their owners, demanding their surrender or else. In short, the firearms community has much to fear regarding confiscations. When firearms owners come into your constituency offices and complain about aggressive law enforcement, apparently they're telling the truth. 46% say they personally know someone charged. How will the remaining millions of unregistered firearms and their owners ever get brought into the system? It's clearly going to require huge commitments of financial and human resources. When one begins with the premise that guns are bad, legal gun owners are potential criminals, and firearms ownership is, of itself, a questionable activity, the system is doomed to fail. And experts have warned you about this repeatedly. The long gun registry is a hugely divisive issue, a decade-long tear in the social fabric of the Dominion. The passage of C-391 is a demonstration of faith in lawful, trustworthy Canadian firearms owners and would go a long way towards healing this gaping wound in our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you.